She woke to the sound of rain rattling against the tin roof above her head. Damp blankets clung to her thin frame as she peered through the darkness of the one-room shack she shared with her grandmother. Lightning flashed beyond the threadbare curtains, revealing the worn tapestry of poverty etched into every cracked plank of the walls. In that moment, 11-year-old Amara Davis closed her eyes and breathed in the scent of earth and loss, as she did every morning before trudging out into a world that saw her as nothing more than an orphan in tattered clothes. When she stepped into the muddy courtyard, her grandmother's frail voice drifted behind her. "Be careful, child. Don't let the rain wash away your hope." Amara offered a small smile, though her heart pounded with the weight of responsibility. Today she would walk 3 miles to the community center to volunteer, delivering meals and tutoring younger children. It was the only way she could earn enough to buy medicine for her grandmother's aching bones. Meanwhile, in the gleaming towers of the city's financial district, Theodore Preston III adjusted his cufflinks and glanced at the rain-slicked streets below. At 38, he had built an empire from steel and glass, ascending to the Forbes list of billionaires before his 40th birthday. Yet beneath his tailored suits and unflappable demeanor, he carried a hollow ache no amount of profit could fill. A few months ago, he had lost his wife to a sudden illness. Since then, his penthouse had felt too empty, the echo of absence too loud. On a whim driven by insomnia and an unexplained longing, Theodore had visited a local orphanage. The night before, he'd wandered through the dim hallways, observing the children pressed against barred windows, faces shining with both hope and despair. When he reached the last room, there she was, a little girl with wide, curious eyes and skin the color of midnight. She sat hunched over a battered math workbook, scribbling equations with fierce concentration. "I'm Theodore Preston," he said softly, kneeling beside her. She looked up, startled. "I was just practicing," she said, her voice steady despite the stranger looming above her. "I want to be an engineer someday." Theodore studied her for a long moment. He saw in her the spark he had lost in himself. Without fully understanding why, he blurted out, "Would you like to live somewhere more comfortable?" Her lips quivered, and tears welled in her eyes. "Yes, sir," she whispered. By morning, the headlines blared. "Billionaire adopts poor black girl." Society's elite skid and shook their heads as Theodore announced that Amara Davis would move into his penthouse that very day. Gossip columns churned with speculation. Charity photos showed Amara, her tiny hand in Theodore's, smiling uncertainly at flashing cameras. In social clubs and boardrooms, whispers spread that the adoption was a publicity stunt, a way to polish Theodore's tarnished image. Critics asked why he would choose a child so far removed from his world, one born into hardship and prejudice. At first, Amara felt like an alien in Theodore's world of polished marble floors and crystal chandeliers. She hesitated at the elevator doors, her knees knocking together. In the kitchen, chefs in pristine whites eyed her as she clumsily tried to navigate a silver spoon. She missed the ragged walls and the smell of rain-soaked earth. Worst of all, she missed her grandmother. But Theodore made sure she wouldn't feel alone. He hired a private tutor, enrolled her in the city's finest preparatory school, and arranged weekend visits with her grandmother. Slowly, Amara discovered the vast library hidden behind sliding oak panels in Theodore's study. The spines of leather-bound volumes beckoned to her as she traced her fingers along their gilded titles. She opened a biology textbook and devoured chapters on genetics. She solved calculus problems late into the night, her mind alight with possibility. Her first day at school brought jeers and snide remarks. In the cafeteria, a group of girls in designer coats sneered at her lunchbox. "Did your handyman pack that?" one whispered. A boy in a crisp uniform laughed. "You don't belong here." Amara's cheeks burned, but she refused to retreat. In class, she answered complex physics questions with ease. Teachers exchanged impressed glances. By the end of the week, whispers shifted from mocking to murmurs of astonishment. "She's actually smart." One crisp winter morning, Theodore received a call from the school principal. "Mr. Preston, your daughter just scored a perfect 100 on the national aptitude exam. She's the first student in school history to do so." Theodore's chest tightened with pride. He looked at the framed photograph on his desk. Amara grinning widely, her hair tied back in neat braids. Against the odds, she had excelled as the seasons turned. Amara's brilliance blossomed like a lotus rising from the mud. She built miniature robots in the penthouse workshop, their circuits humming with precision. She coded algorithms that forecasted stock market trends, astonishing Theodore's financial analysts. On weekends, he took her grandmother to science fairs and lectured at youth conferences, her voice resonating with confidence. Yet despite her achievements, prejudice lingered. At a prestigious gala, society's gatekeepers gathered beneath chandeliers dripping with crystals. They sipped champagne and exchanged polite smiles. But when Theodore introduced Amara, some guests excused themselves behind polite laughter. "She seems precocious," one matron said, her false warmth barely concealing skepticism. Amara's eyes flicked to Theodore, who squeezed her hand reassuringly. Later, as they walked through the marble lobby, she whispered, "Why do they hate me?" Theodore knelt in the polished hallway and looked her in the eyes. "Because they see you shining so brightly and it scares them. They've never met someone like you." So they try to dim your light. Amara frowned. Do you think I'm too different? No, he said firmly. You're exactly who you're meant to be. Word of Amara's inventions began to spread beyond their social circles. Tech magazines featured her as a prodigy, and venture capitalists came calling with offers to fund her projects. She designed sustainable energy solutions that could power entire villages. When she presented her latest prototype at an international conference, delegates rose to their feet in a standing ovation. Cameras flashed, and headlines proclaimed her the girl who lights the world. Through it all, Theodore remained her unwavering champion. He arranged for her to meet Nobel laureates and CEOs, and he cheered louder than anyone when she received her first patent at 14. Yet he guarded her childhood fiercely, ensuring she still spent weekends at her grandmother's shack, where the rain still pattered on the tin roof, and hope grew in the spaces between hardship and love. By her 16th birthday, Amara had graduated high school with top honors and was accepted into MIT on a full scholarship. At the ceremony, she stepped onto the stage to speak. The room fell silent. Her voice, resonant with humility and strength, carried across the auditorium. I come from a place where not many believed in me, where poverty was a daily companion and hope often felt like a luxury. But I learned early that our circumstances do not define our potential. With the love of my grandmother, the support of my father, and the spark of curiosity inside me, I discovered that brilliance can flourish anywhere. It is not the walls around us but the light within us that shapes our destiny. Tears glistened in Theodore's eyes as he watched from the front row. The elite who once mocked stood to applaud, their eyes wide with admiration and perhaps a tinge of regret. Amara's words rippled outward, inspiring countless others to see beyond prejudice and embrace possibility. In the years that followed, Amara's innovations transformed energy access across continents. She founded a global non-profit to support underprivileged students, ensuring they too could chase their dreams. Theodore, now her proud father and partner in philanthropy, often said that adopting Amara was the best decision of his life. And though the world had once laughed when a millionaire adopted a poor black girl, they learned the hard way that genius knows no bounds. In Amara's story, they discovered that true wealth lies not in bank accounts or titles, but in the power of belief, the strength of family, and the fire of a curious mind refusing to be extinguished by doubt.
On celebratory days, and soothed his tears through scraped knees and heartaches, they shared laughter at breakfast, where she taught him how to crack an egg gently and watch the yolk gleam. He introduced her to his world of fine wines and charity events, but she rooted him in the simple truths of human connection. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the veranda, the millionaire turned to her. The baby, now toddling between his father's legs, squealed with delight as a butterfly landed on the railing. He cupped his hands around his mouth and called, "Look." She smiled as the child waved at the delicate creature. He placed an arm around her shoulders, drawing her close. "Thank you," he murmured, echoing the words of that first night but deeper now. "You saved more than just his tears. You saved me from myself." She leaned into him, contentment blooming like a flower. The mansion no longer felt like a cold fortress, it was home. And in every polished surface, every echo of laughter, down the halls lay proof that kindness could change even the hardest hearts. And so, in that gilded house on the hill, a black woman who came to clean discovered her true calling. She became the glue that held a family together, showing a millionaire that wealth without love was empty. And as she brushed the final speck of dust from a silver picture framing beside it, a photograph of the three of them, radiant with joy, she knew that some treasures were simply moments of the heart, priceless and eternal.